Blessings, peace, and love, family. Today is a very special, special day. We are doing a celebration of life, birthday Ghanaian dish called Oto or Eto.
Wanyama kalo, tababa wale. Nyande.
Good evening, afternoon, morning, wherever you are on the globe, and welcome to Health Watch Thursdays at New Earth, Ghana. I'm your host and vegan chef for the evening, Niara. I am the owner of the Gourmet Vegan, which is a vegan catering company located here in Ghana. I've been living here in Ghana now for close to 2 years, and I have been a vegan for 31, 32 years. Give or take. I am the proud mother of 5 beautiful vegan children. All of my children are vegan. Yes, they are. My eldest is almost 23 and my youngest, my baby girl, is 10 years old. So I have reared a family on a vegan lifestyle, plant-based lifestyle. Some people like to use the terminology vegan. Some people prefer plant-based. At any rate, it is a diet, a lifestyle that excludes not only meat products, but meat byproducts. Today, aside from the food, so you want to cleanse your carrots, which I've already done. Then some people peel, because I've had my Champion juicer for like, 23 years, the same one, and I've never had any problems with it. I've never had to replace any parts of it, so shout out to Champion juicer. So once you have juiced the carrots, you get a pulp, and it looks like this. And you're gonna put a few different items inside of your carrot. I also add the carrot juice, a little of the carrot juice inside of the pulp. because you want it to be moist. Because when you juice it, right, it's removing like all of the moisture from out of the pulp, so it's a little dry. So I pour a little bit of my carrot juice back into the pulp. And then after I do that, then I add my vegetables. I've already prepped my vegetables for this because I didn't want to lug all of my equipment here. So you're gonna include the scissors. We don't really use measurements like that when we cook, especially when we've been cooking for a long, long time as I have. You know, you can gauge how much that you should be using. So as many of us say, we just let the sound, the voice of the ancestors speak to us and say, stop child, enough child, and we know when it's time to move on to the next ingredient. So I don't use any measurements, so I can't tell you, oh, this is 3 tablespoons of my mixture. But I know what it's supposed to look like and I know what it's supposed to taste like. So I'm a veteran at this. I'm not new to this, I'm true to this. Okay, next I'm going to add my salt. I only use pink Himalayan salt. Now I've already ground up my salt. I get the salt rocks and then I grind them up, you know, as I use it. So I'm going to add my pink Himalayan salt. Now you don't have to use pink Himalayan salt. That's my preference. But if you have you know, another salt that you prefer to use, then by all means do use that. Okay, and then I'm going to use my organic sugar cane. And this spoon right here, it's a teaspoon measurement. And then after that, I'm going to, I'm sorry, may I ask your assistance, please? I have a container, a small bowl in the refrigerator. It's my soy butter. I have I'm going to add, it's like a vegan mayonnaise that I make. And basically what that consists of is soy milk, which I make my own soy milk as well. I'm really big on making my own ingredients. I feel that when you make your own ingredients, number one, it's much more fresh. It's also healthier because you don't have to worry about additives, preservatives, things like this. And then also a lot of times when you buy pre-packaged foods, even though they list the ingredients on, you know, on the label, you really don't know everything that goes into it. You don't know, you know, all of the circumstances surrounding how that product was made. So wherever I can, I like to use my own ingredients. So this is like a vegan mayo. As I said, it's made from soy milk. I make my own soy milk from the soybeans. And then it's vinegar or fresh lemon juice. You squeeze it into the soy milk. And you add cooking oil to it. I prefer to use rice bran oil, but that's something that you can't find here. So I use sunflower. I use sunflower oil. And you use a high-powered blender. I prefer Vitamix because it's a really strong blender, and so I don't have to use as much oil with it as you do with like lower-end blenders. So I'm going to add my vegan mayonnaise to the pulp and the other ingredients. And last, but definitely not least, I'm going to add my nutritional yeast. Now sometimes, right, I add kelp powder to it, and it gives it kind of like, you know, that sea taste, like a fishy taste. A lot of people, particularly people who are not vegan, when they've eaten my carrot, not tuna salad, that's the first thing that they say that it tastes like is tuna fish. So, but the nutritional yeast also gives it it adds, you know, it accentuates the flavor as well. Okay, so now that I have all of my ingredients in, I'm going to mix it up thoroughly. And as I'm mixing it, I'm looking for a certain color, like it's kind of almost like a salmon color. So I can see now, right, that I don't have enough of my vegan mayo as I'm mixing it, so I'm going to add some more. And I love the smell of this, the aroma. It's so pleasant. I mean, you can smell all of the different flavors, the different seasonings, the vegetables, the pickles. Did I mention pickles? I didn't. Okay, so I add pickles to this as well. And all of that was in this mixture right here. The stuff that the vegetables that I chopped up, the red onion, the celery, the green bell pepper. So I add pickles to that as well. So it's similar to like a tuna fish salad, because in tuna fish salad you do add, you know, those different ingredients. You add the pickles. And this is also like a really great dish to make and to like put up in the fridge for like 3 days. So if you're somebody who you're pressed for time, you work a job or you have a lot of children, as I do, and you don't want to prepare something every day, this is a great dish that, you know, you can prepare, put it up in the fridge, and it'll last you for 3 days. And you can put it on sliced bread. You can eat it with crackers and vegan cheese. We're going to be making a flatbread today as well, which is how I prefer to eat my carrot not tuna salad, on a flatbread. And my children love it as well. I also make a vegan cheese, and so when you add that to it, it's just like, oh my God, it takes it to a whole nother level. I'm a true foodie. How many of y'all are foodies? Yeah, food is life. So I'm going to add the last of my vegan mayo. And stir this in a little bit more. Okay, so now I'm getting the color that I like. It's like a lighter orange. When you first make it, when you juice your carrots, it's going to be like a deep, rich orange color. And so when you add your vegan mayo, then it's going to be a lighter color. And you want to mix it real thoroughly, because you want to make sure that you have all of those, you know, the ingredients mixed in very well together. Okay. Okay. So I want you guys to take a look at this is what your carrot not tuna salad is going to be should look like. Okay. So this is what the finished product is supposed to look like. I'm going to taste it to make sure that everything is on point, that we don't need to add a little more yeast, a little more sugar, salt, what have you. And I think I neglected to mention that there's garlic inside of this mixture. Did I mention garlic, fresh garlic? I did? I did, okay. Alrighty, so I'm going to use my little spoon right here to taste our carrot not tuna salad. Okay, so I need a tad bit more sugar and a tad bit more yeast to it. So I'm going to add some more yeast and some more sugar to it. And this is nutritional yeast. It's something that you use to make also, like if you make vegan cheeses, it gives it that creamy texture and that cheesy flavor. So if you make like a cashew cheese, then you'll add the nutritional yeast to it. So as I mentioned, I've been a vegan for like, what, 31, 32 years. And it's funny, I became a vegan actually when I was in college. And my mentor at the time, she was an elder lady that was like in her 60s, 70s, and she had been vegan for like ever. And this was actually the first time that I had met a person of African descent that had embraced a plant-based diet. And so she encouraged me to start my journey. And I was at a point in time in my life where I wasn't eating any red meat. I wasn't eating any chicken. Of course, I wasn't eating pork. And so I was eating still like fish. And then when I abandoned seafood altogether, the most difficult thing for me to let go, because we're talking way back when, before, now veganism, the plant-based diet has become, extremely popular, like globally. You can go anywhere in the world and pretty much find plant-based food. So this was before you had the soy delicious ice cream and before people were making vegan cheeses and things. So of course that was the most difficult thing for me to give up, was like, ice cream and cheese. I really struggled with that. But shout out to Mama Denver. She really helped me and encouraged me to embrace a plant-based lifestyle. And there was a brother in Houston named Brother Burgess who was actually selling the CKLS, the colon, kidney, liver, spleen. And so I and my husband, we had started, remember, it was so long ago. It's a long time. Okay, so let's see what this vegan NOT-TUNA salad is tasting like right now. Get my spoon, rinse it off a little bit. And that's also the thing too, when you don't use measurements, but even sometimes when you do use measurements, you still have to add a little bit, because you're looking for a specific taste. So maybe the original person that you created the recipe from, like maybe I may share a recipe with you guys, right? And my recipe calls for a certain amount of salt or sugar, but everybody has their own personal, taste buds. And so things that, taste that appeal to them. Perfect. Oh, so delicious. Okay, so we're gonna scoop this up and put it into this beautiful white platter and put that to the side, and then we're gonna start on our flatbread. So give me just a second to scoop this up and put it in the container. So as I said, I am the mother of 5, and it's so funny because I remember with many of my children, a lot of people would think that, oh, you're vegan, but surely your children are not. And it actually has not been a struggle with the benefits of eating a plant-based diet. And I explained to him what happens to the body, right, when you consume meat, and not only just meat, but the byproducts of meat. That includes dairy, eggs. I explained to him in great detail and length what that does to the body. And after doing that, he fully understood. And not only did he understand, but he really and truly embraced a plant-based lifestyle to to the point that he's like highly conscientious. He's 20 years old now. And he even now is still very highly conscientious of the foods that he eats. Like he doesn't even like consuming white sugar. And then another thing too about when you're on a plant-based diet, it's like your senses become much more heightened. So one time we were in Italy and we had went to a restaurant. It wasn't a vegan restaurant, but they had vegan items on the menu. This was some years ago. And so we had ordered, they had a vegan burger, that's what it was. We had ordered the vegan burger and they put cheese on it, dairy cheese on it. And before he even bit into the hamburger, he smelled it. He said, this has, you know, animal cheese on it, you know, and he threw it away. He did not touch the burger. He didn't try to like wipe the cheese off or anything. He just threw the burger away. So, you know, it's when you, I feel like when you educate your children and explain to them why you're doing something as opposed to just making them do it, saying, this is my way, do it because I said so, you know, because children are very intelligent, you know, and they're able to discern things and understand things, you know, at a high level. I think that a lot of times we don't give them, you know, the proper credit that they deserve. So even my eldest son, it's so funny, he used to think that we ate brown flour and brown sugar and brown rice because the color of our skin was brown. And so I never even thought about that until we were in the kitchen once and I had ground up some of the brown sugar. So when you grind it up, you know, the color changes. And so he asked me, he said, is that white sugar? And I said, no, I explained to him that I ground it up. And he said, oh, he said, because we eat brown sugar because we're brown. And I was like, no, that's not that's not what it that's not why we consume the brown sugar. We consume it because it's much healthier. Okay, so this is our finished product of the carrot not tuna salad. It smells so, oh, that fresh onion and garlic. That's another thing too. I love garlic. I kind of go overboard with the garlic, but you know, garlic is very good for us as well. You know, it's very good for our blood. So I feel like you can never have too much garlic, you know, as long as you have some peppermint oil on standby to dash in your mouth. Okay, so now we're going to move on to our flatbread, which is also a favorite in my household. My children love flatbread, and it tastes so good when it's made fresh. Much better than them stale tortillas they be selling at Max Mart. Okay, so I have sifted my flour. Once again, I don't know how much it is because I don't use measurements. So I've added, I would say that it's probably about 2 cups of flour, maybe 1 3/4 cups of flour. So I've added my flour to my stainless steel bowl. And now I'm going to add a pinch of salt, my pink Himalayan salt. So this is 2 teaspoons that I'm adding, roughly. It's not 2, you know, full flat teaspoons. And then I also add some non-aluminum baking powder to the flatbread. And I'm adding about 1.5 teaspoons to that. And the reason why we choose the non-aluminum baking powder is because if you all are not aware, aluminum is also one of the causes of Alzheimer's. So whenever I'm buying baking powder, I'm always very conscientious to choose that one that's non-aluminum. That's very, very important, because we want to hold on to our memory. So now I'm going to mix this up. Now sometimes when I want to do something a little different, I'll add some za'atar to my mixture as well. That gives it a nice flavor, you know, depending on what it is that I'm making. So if like I'm making like a Mediterranean dish, then I add the za'atar. Other times I may add some turmeric to it that'll give it like a nice yellow flavor. So maybe you're making like a Mexican dish, you're making some tacos or burritos. The turmeric gives it a nice little spice to it. And then now I'm going to add my oil to it. So my husband, who's here with us, he also actually started we started our vegan journey together. And it's so funny, as I said, we were in college, and so like all of my male friends would be like, "Why you ain't letting that brother eat a Whopper?" You know, a Whopper. They felt like I was deprived. A Whopper is this. Are you familiar with what a Whopper is? Okay, it's a hamburger it's called Burger King, but I call them Murder King because that's what they do. They murder millions of people annually. Anyway, so the Whopper, that's like their famous hamburger. And so my male friends in college, they would like always be teasing me and say stuff like, "I know that man sneaking behind your back and eating a Big Mac, a Whopper." So, but I was like, no. My husband, first of all, my husband is someone who's like into physical fitness. He's a physical education teacher. So he's very conscientious also of not just his appearance, his physical appearance, but also his health. So it was a journey that, I didn't have to convince him to do. It's something that he openly, willingly embraced, which was great because I would have never married a non-vegan. Can you just imagine sitting down eating this delicious plant-based meal and then your partner sitting across from you is, eating a steak? You know what I'm saying? It wouldn't work. Eating some oxtails. That's another thing too. When you embrace a plant-based diet, right? As I said, your senses become like really, really heightened, very sensitive. So like even like the smell of meat, particularly certain meats, it's very difficult, for you to stomach. And you become like just keenly aware of it. You can, well, my husband says that I have a bionic nose. So I can smell when somebody's frying some hog mog or. Okay, so I'm mixing in the oil with my flour, and you want it to, if you all have ever made any type of a pie crust, it's a certain feel that you're looking for, right? It's like you want to feel the oil, the moisture, but you don't want it to be oily and you don't want it to be heavy. So that's the feel that you're looking for when you're mixing in, your oil into your flour. And so once you get that feeling that you're looking for, then you're going to add some water, some drinking water to your mixture. So I'm just going to add a teaspoon more of the oil. And mix that in real good. And you want to make sure that you're running the flour through your hands. Make sure that you mix the oil in real thoroughly. Okay, so we have that. And so this is what your mixture is going to look like. And so now we're going to add the oil, we're going to add the water to it. And I just add a little water at a time because I want to make sure that I don't add too much water, right? Because if you add too much water to your dough, then your bread will be dry. And also it could also be, you know, hard and actually turn into like a cracker instead of a flatbread. You know, and so if that happens, you can always just make you some crackers and start all over again. And as you all can see, it's starting to bind. So that's one of the misnomers that a lot of people have when they're like, oh my God, how do you make bread? How do you make cake without eggs? You know, they think that you need eggs as a binding agent, which you do not. And so I'm like, y'all never made a piñata? You know, have any of y'all ever made a piñata? Yeah, it's nothing but, you know, flour and water. Anytime you mix flour and water together, you know, that it's going to bind. And the more water you add, then your dough is going to begin to turn soft. And then it's going to be sticky as well. So this is what we're looking for. You see how sticky that is? Okay? So that's what you're looking for. That's what you want. So you're going to continue to knead it. And then what you're going to do is sift a little bit of the flour on top of it. And then that's going to remove the stickiness. So I sprinkle a little bit of the flour on it, and then I sprinkle it on my hands as well. And you see how it's starting to not stick to my hands. Just pull the rest of the dough off of my hands, my fingers. And this is also something that's fun to do with your children, because children love putting their hands, and you know, the younger children, like my 10-year-old daughter, even when she was like 2 years old, she would pull the chair up to the table and she would, you know, make food with me, prepare. And that's one of the reasons why I think that she's such an excellent cook now at the age of 10 years old. Because honestly, to tell you the truth, she can outdo me, because she started at such a young age, and she's extremely creative. Also, you know, I believe that the cooking is a life skill. You know, it's not a lot. I know a lot of people feel that it's a specific gender, a woman's, you know, place to cook, but I feel like all people should know how to cook. All of my sons, all 4 of them, are excellent cooks. And it's because I started them off early. And, you know, since the ancestors knew something about me that I didn't know about myself, right, giving me 4 sons, I was like, I'm not about to be in this kitchen slaving all day from sun up to sundown. You know, so I put them in the kitchen, all of them. And so all of them, they're excellent cooks. Especially my eldest son, he really is good. It's funny, the 2 middle boys, I would say they're, I don't want to use the word the worst, but they're not as good as the elder boy and the younger boy. But they do have their strengths when it comes to being in the kitchen, but all of them know their way around the kitchen very, very well. So we would have, you know, big family meals. One person would be preparing one dish. This person would do the salad. Of course, somebody on dishes. That was usually my husband's contribution. Okay, so this is our dough. All right, this is what our dough is supposed to look like. You see this? Nice, it's soft. Okay. Now what you're going to do is pull off pieces about this size. If you want to make them bigger, you can as well. Okay, and you're going to roll it in your hand like such. And these are balls. Each one of these is going to be a piece of flatbread. Okay, so what I do is I roll my balls first. Another thing too about making food from scratch is, you know, it keeps your body, you know, in good shape, because it's also a form of exercise. You know, that's why I always say plant-based, you know, it's a lifestyle. It's not just about consuming non-animal products. It's about what you put in your body, what you do for your body. So we have quite a few matzo balls. So we're going to have about 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, about 8 or 9 pieces of flatbread. And these are also something that's good. Like you can make these up and just keep it, like when you roll your balls like this, put a little flour on it, you know, and then wrap it up in some saran wrap and put it in the freezer, and then pull it out and let it sit and let it thaw out, and then roll it out. So you don't have to go through the process from scratch, you know, all of the time. Okay, so let me clear some space for myself to roll out our flatbread. Now, so also when I make the carrot salad, something that I like to eat it with, if I'm not up for making the flatbread, is, are you guys familiar with nori seaweed sheets? Okay, so you know what sushi is though, right? Okay, so what the sushi is in, that green, like sea green, it looks like kind of like a piece of paper, but it's like a dark sea green color. You've had sushi before? Okay, so it's this type of seaweed. It's actually very, very healthy, and it is delicious when you eat it with the carrot NOT-TUNA salad. So you just roll the tuna salad inside of it. But if you're a big sushi fan like I am, then you would love it. Okay, so we're going to start rolling out our flatbread. So I'm just going to sprinkle a little flour on my cutting board. Now, if I'm at home, I'm just using my counter to roll out the flatbread, but I'm improvising here, so. So as I said, I sprinkled a little of the flour on my cutting board, and that's so that it won't stick when you're rolling it out. So I'm going to put just a little bit more on the ball. And roll it in my hand again. And I'm using, you know, a rolling pin. Now when you're rolling it out, the key to getting a nice round piece of flatbread is to continue to rotate it. So like when you roll it, then pick it up and turn it, and then you keep doing that so that it has a nice round shape to it. And it may take you some time, you know, to get a nice round shape. I remember when my children would first do it, it would look awful. And I'd be like, that does not look nice. But they ate it anyways. They were like, I don't care, you know, it's still gonna taste good. So you want to keep also sprinkling a little of the flour on the top, and that's, as I said, to prevent it from sticking. And you want it to roll it out where it's thin. Okay, so I'm just going to put this to the side on the paper towel. And what I do when I make my flatbread, I roll out like about 5 or 6 of them because I'm going to cook it on the fire, and it cooks fast. And so you want to have a few already rolled out so that you can, you know, because it doesn't take long to cook at all. Like each side is like maybe about 20-30 seconds. You cook it on one side and then you flip it over. And you also, like if doing something like this is like too labor intensive, they have what's called a tortilla press that you can buy. I actually am trying to get my hands on one myself. So if y'all know where I can get one, help a sister out. Because like when I have large orders, doing this is, you know, it's extremely labor intensive. So, but yeah, so with the tortilla press, you just put your ball inside of the tortilla press and just, you know, press it down, and it's ready. And once again, you want to make sure that, you know, when you're rolling out your dough for your flatbread, that you roll it out so that it's thin. You don't want it too thin, you know, because you don't want it to tear. So this is what your flatbread should look like, okay? And then I just put a little flour on it right here because I'm gonna put it on top of the other one, and I don't want it to stick. The flour helps so that it won't stick to the other piece. And then, you know, it's just wash, rinse, repeat, the same process. And like I said, you do like about 4 or 5 of these, have them already rolled out, and then I turn my fire on my skillet. I personally prefer to use a cast iron skillet because I think that it cooks it much more evenly. And you can use this for so many things, like, you know, if you're making burritos, if you're making, you know, soft shell tacos. It's, you know, it's very versatile. I actually use this because I have one of the items that I sell for my business, the Gourmet Vegan, is I do a sloppy Joe sandwich. And so I use the flatbread for that. I also do a chickpea NOT-TUNA wrap sandwich. And so I use the flatbread for that as well. For those of you who are interested in patronizing my business, it's called The Gourmet Vegan, and you can find me on Instagram and TicTock. I have lots of delicious vegan dishes, things that are, you know, different and unique, like a broccoli quiche, a spinach quiche. I also do really great desserts. I do a mean cashew vegan cheesecake. I'm telling you. Make you hurt yourself. Okay, so now we have 3. I'm going to do 2 more, and then I'm going to start my fire. And you want to cook these on high heat. Okay, so I have 4 of my flatbreads rolled out, and no, I hear you, sis. Whatever makes you. I got you. Okay, so I'm just gonna rinse my hands off a little bit because I have a lot of the dough on it, and I'm gonna turn my fire on. Seven. Okay. We straight. We have enough. I'm just gonna check my pan. Okay, so it's getting heat. You want it to be really, really hot, okay? So my favorite flour to use is spelt flour. I absolutely love flour for years. Actually, when I lived in Israel, I lived in Israel for 19 years. It is the only flour that I bought. But it was very ready, you know, so I don't know how that would work with the matzah, with the flatbread. I'm not sure that you could use something like a buckwheat flour, but you know, you could always experiment. You know, I'm a big fan of experimenting. You know, you might run up and find, you know, something that you've created, something, you know, really spectacular, something different and very tasty. So I'm all a fan of experimenting. Now I will say this, right, depending on the type of flour that you use, you do have to change your measurements up. You know, like it may require more oil or less oil. You may need to use more of the baking powder, right, or less of the baking powder. Okay, so my fire is nice. The temperature of the pot is nice and hot now. So I'm going to take this first piece of flatbread dough, and I'm gonna, the way that when you put it in, you want to keep your hand flat like this, like so. Spread your fingers like this, because when you put it in, you don't want it to, you know, to crumple up or like for one piece to fold underneath it. Although if that happens, you can always, you know, adjust it. It's not, you know, a catastrophe. So I'm putting it in, and when your flatbread, when the dough is inside of the pot, right, you're gonna see like bubbles form. And when the edges of it, the outside edges begin to turn like that golden brown, then you're gonna flip it, okay? Now, like I said, for me, and because I've been doing this for so long, I usually just count in my head as I'm rolling out the next piece of bread. And you can use a spatula to turn it over to flip it, or you can use, as you saw me using my bare hands. Now the other thing, right, that you want to do, particularly if you are not going to be eating your flatbread soon, is you want to get like a plastic bag that has not been used. And when you take your flatbread out, so this is what it looks like, okay? When you take it out, you want to put it inside of the plastic bag to hold in that moisture, and that's going to keep it soft. So since we don't have the plastic bag, I'm going to use the pot top, right? And I'm just going to put it on top of the flatbread, and that's going to it's going to hold in that heat and keep it soft.
Okay.
You guys have some questions?
Okay, so I have a question.
Uh-huh.
I wanted to ask, when it comes to like so I'm not 100%, I'm not vegan, but
You're on the journey. You're on the path.
yes. So I'm not 100% there yet, but I know that sometimes I withdraw from some certain proteins and all. But what I wanted to ask is when it comes to children, like raising children, I know that children need like a certain amount of protein to help with their growth and all. Do you advise that they take eggs and milk?
No, I do not. I think that that's one of the. It's so funny that you should say. I think that's one of the biggest myths that a lot of people have about a plant-based lifestyle is that, and not even just about plant-based lifestyle, but in terms of the diet that we're supposed to consume. Or we're supposed to have this much protein, this much calcium, and not only that, but the source of it. Where do we get the source of that? My children, as I said, I have 5 children, and all of them, they were born on a plant-based diet. I reared them on a plant-based diet. You have things like quinoa. Are you familiar with quinoa? Are you familiar with quinoa? Okay, so quinoa is a grain. It's similar to couscous, rice, bulgur. And quinoa is extremely high in protein. Beans, legumes, also very high. Many of these plant-based foods are much higher in protein than animal products. Meat, beef, fish, chicken, even eggs. I mean, eggs come from a chick. All I say, eggs are aborted fetuses. I mean, that's what they are. So, you know, this idea that we need these things to, you know, to be healthy, it's a myth. We don't need them. Even the fact that we need so much protein, right? There's only a certain amount of protein that the actual body needs because our body produces protein. What we need are amino acids. You know, that's what we really need. So a lot of, there's so many, even like I said about calcium and even the source of calcium. We don't need to consume cow milk for calcium. There's so many things. Carob, right? Something that comes from the earth, the plant, is very high in calcium. Sesame seeds, very high in calcium. There's so many things that we can consume, but because we live, you know, in a society, in a capitalist society, you know, in these different industries, the dairy industry, the cattle industry, you know, they're very lucrative and is very profitable. And then you have the pharmaceutical industry as well. They make a lot of money off of people getting sick because when we consume these things, right, it's so insane. When you go to a doctor, if you're sick, what is one of the first things that they tell you? You know, to start cutting certain things out of your diet. Even with when you're trying to conceive. I knew a woman when I lived in Israel, and she was having difficulty conceiving. And so she was like, oh, my doctor put me on a vegan diet. You know, so if we understand that when we're battling certain ailments, right, that we should consume a plant-based diet, then why not just consume a plant-based diet from the start? You know, why wait until you're sick to start consuming a plant-based, you know, diet?
I think I have one more question.
Mm-hmm.
The oil you used, what oil is that?
So this oil right here is sunflower oil.
Okay, is coconut oil healthy as well?
I recommend coconut oil as well as olive oil.
Coconut oil.
Coconut oil and olive oil.
And sunflower oil.
I use sunflower oil as well. But in terms of, like, I would say the best higher quality oils, I would say coconut oil and then olive oil.
Okay. Thank you. I think that's all for now.
You're welcome. Any other questions?
Yeah, your mixture there that you were doing earlier, I saw that you put yeast in there. Isn't yeast the leavening or rising helps things rise?
Okay, so that's not baking yeast. That's nutritional yeast, which is something that's distinctly different. That's not the same. When you're talking about baking yeast, that's the type of yeast that you use for like when you're making bread. Nutritional yeast is something entirely different. Any other questions? And nutritional use, as I said, you can use that for like when you're making cheeses. It's more so something you use to flavor the food, to give, you know, added flavor, a certain taste to it. The nutritional yeast. Okay, so we have 3 more. Let me see how many. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. You said it's 7 of us? Okay, so we're gonna drop this last piece of flatbread in. And you guys, are you ready to taste? Rinse the last of this flour off of my hand. What's on it is like really, really, really tasty. All right, this is the last piece of flatbread. Turn my fire off. Move my pot over here. Okay. Mm-hmm. Uh-huh.
What did you use for it? Is it the vegan mayo?
Right, I make it from, as I said, the soy milk.
Soy milk.
Uh-huh.
Raw?
So I make my soy milk first.
Raw soy milk. Raw beans.
Okay, so what I do, I soak the soybean overnight in water. Drinking water, and then once I've soaked it, I put it in my Vitamix and I blend it up really, really good, and then I poured that into a large cooking pot, and I let that cook on really, really high heat for like about 15 minutes, and then I strain that. And when I strain it, what happens is I get the milk, and then I have the pulp that's left over, and the milk is really, really, really nice. It's so much better than the milk that you buy in the stores. It makes a much creamier, if you're making, whether you're making like a cheese, a salad dressing, or in this case the vegan mayo. It's much creamier, and it's a much better quality. So I put the soy milk that I've made right back into the blender, and then I add either some vinegar.
Wait, after blending the soaked soya milk, soya bean, you blend it.
Okay, so after I've soaked it, I soak it overnight, and then I blend it, and then after I finish blending it, I add it to the pot, and I let it cook on really, really high heat for like 15 minutes.
Together with the chaff, you boil it together with the chaff, or you strain it before you.
No. I strain it after I've cooked it.
After you cook.
Right, after I cooked it, then I strain it.
After blending it, you boil it.
Exactly.
Straight.
Exactly.
Cook it, then you strain. Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
And what's going to happen, right, when it's going to rise, and it's going to like create like this. It's kind of like exactly.
Yes.
And so then when it looks like it's going to be like a film almost. Okay, then you'll know that it's exactly. Then you'll know that it's ready. So you turn your fire off and you let it cool for a minute, and then you strain it. You can use cheesecloth, or you can use one of these right here to strain it. Okay. To make the soy, the vegan mayo?
Yes.
Exactly. I put my soy milk in the blender. I add either some vinegar or some fresh lemon juice. Okay? And when you add that, it's gonna curdle. Exactly. And so then I put that on, I blend it on high speed, add a pinch of salt as well. And then that's when I pour the oil down. It's gonna look like, you know, like a tornado. Okay? And so I pour that oil down the middle, and then I let it blend for like about 30 seconds, like on the highest setting on my blender, and then I turn it off, and then it's gonna. I have the vegan mayo.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. So I would love to come back and show you guys how to make condiments. You know. I do cheeses, mustard, all different types of sauces, you know, because you know we melanated folks. We like sauces on our things. We like sandwiches. You know what I'm saying? If it don't have, you know, 3 different 4 types of sauces, we don't want it. It ain't no good. So we need gravy, all those types of things. So yes, I would love to come back and show you guys, you know, how to make different types of vegan sauces. Because that's one of the, oh my God, that was another struggle as well when I first became vegan. You know, because other folks, you know, they don't like, you know, sauces, and they don't like juicy sandwiches. You know, they like choke sandwiches. You know what I'm saying? How you know, you got to have some sauce on your sandwich. So, okay, so who wants to be first? Don't be shy. Come. Don't be shy. Okay, so now this, as I said, normally I would have my different condiments on it, like cheese or mustard, some sprouts. But for today, we're just doing the plain sandwich. So. The carrot, not tuna salad.
Yeah, it's very good. I like it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Enjoy.
What
do you think?
I really like the bread. Is this bread?
Yeah.
Oh. I can't eat this all day. So let me get into the.
They only taste it
It's really tasty.
Surprise.
Wow.
It's carrot. You wouldn't believe that's carrot.
It tastes like it has milk and eggs in it.
No.
Yes. Wow.
You see?
100%.
Enjoy.
Thank you.
Santa wants to take her time and analyze. Okay, all right.
Hey.
All right, what's the verdict? We when the Santa wife says it's good, trust me.
Hi. Surprise.
First, I knew when she said the hey. I know what that hey means.
When she does this one is. I didn't see your finger. There you go. There's your finger.
Bobby. Very delicious. Fantastic.
Thank you. Thank you. Enjoy.
That means now. God bless you. Hey. It is good. So much. Oh, very well. God bless you.
You see, now I need you to go out. I need you to go out and tell the people that there's no need to eat goat
At all.
at all.
What do you think?
Oh, it's very, very good. It's nice, so tasty. Yeah, it's very, very good.
You surprised me? That's carrots.
Yeah.
You didn't think carrots would
Why
taste
do you
like that?
taste that?
Yeah,
You
what's...
didn't think carrots would taste like that?
No.
This.
It's very, very nice. It's very nice.
So this is just like nothing goes away. So you make your carrot juice. You have your pulp.
Right, nothing gets
Nothing goes
wasted.
to waste.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's very, very
It's a very popular dish amongst the live food or raw food community. And live food is the very highest frequency.
Yes, that's right. That's right.
I was going live because I did taste it on the weekend. That's why I was like, yes, she's making the correct. That's a bomb. Oh, I love the bread.
You like it?
I knew the inside was going to be good because I had that on the weekend.
Right.
But I had it with the nuri sheet.
It's a wholesome food. It's a wholesome.
And I love burritos. That's my favorite food, Mexican food. This is, yeah. I can do it myself now. This is delicious. Is hubby gonna get some? You getting something?
This is
Okay,
hubby's.
there you go. Can't leave out the hubby.
But you know, hubby lives with the chef, so hubby gets this treatment every day. Betavon.
So you're familiar
Okay.
with this particular one, this particular combination?
Oh, yes.
Okay.
For years.
Yeah, literally. And I mean, I'll make all kinds of things. I'll batter tofu and put it in here. Another thing that my children love is I'll do like battered cauliflower. Funny story time. My husband, when we lived in Israel, he coached basketball. And so he invited it was some brothers from the States that were over in Israel playing ball, professional ball. And so he invited them over to the house for dinner. So when they walked through the door, they were like, I'm smelling fried chicken up in here. And so I looked at him and I said, you didn't tell him we were vegan? And he was like, nah, I left that part out. I was like, so I told him, I said, nah, brother, your nose deceives you. Ain't no chicken frying up in here. You smelling cauliflower. And they were like, that's cauliflower smelling like that? And as I always tell people, look, if you take a piece of chicken and you just fry it, you don't put anything on it, it's not going to be tasty. It's the plants that actually give the chicken the flavor. And that's with any meat. That's with any dish. You know what I'm saying? So. Okay, so I'm going to just roll out the rest of these matzo dough. These flatbread dough. But for now, I'm going to say goodbye to you and bid you farewell. Thank you so much for tuning in this evening. Thank you for your time. I hope for those of you who are not on a plant-based lifestyle yet, that I hope that I've made you reconsider joining the wave. And remember, your health is your wealth.